Hi, Patreon subscribers. So here I am in my bathrobe. Ugh. And, well, see the ring light on my wine glass. Well, here to discuss another episode. Just poured myself a glass of wine of And Just Like That. So I think my thoughts this episode are going to be a little in a different vein than last week. Two things. I think last week I was coming at it as a writer and saying like, if I had all the control, obviously the writers on the show have no control either. They've got to answer the showrunner and what they want. Sure, people pitched a million different things, but I was coming in as a writer. Like, if I controlled the show, this is how I would have written Samantha, and what are they doing with Steve, and blah, blah, blah. And also as a fan who's just like disappointed in certain things or liked other things. I think this week I'm going to talk about it from like a fan perspective, because at this point, with like the first two episodes where we're bringing everyone back in the world and we kind of have to establish where everyone is, that's where I have thoughts from a writerly perspective. And any of the critiques I have right now as a writer are just not even worth it, because I know as a writer for TV that like you don't get to do everything you want. And I don't want to be mean to anyone's work because it's fucking so hard, and it's a committee of tons of people, and it's just like nitpicky. But if I had like an overall thing, like a bigger plot thing, which it might come up, but I think this episode was more my thoughts as a fan of the show, like what I hated about it and what I thought kind of worked. So it's not saying I could do better. I think why I'm sensitive to that in this episode, well, even though this is the part I'm gonna rip, is the fucking stand-up, because I write on a stand-up show, and on Mrs. Maisel, and it's hard to write. And again, I don't write her stand-up. People think I do. They think I'm hired exclusively to write it. I'm a writer on the show. I sit in the rooms when they go, okay, here's a season. We have 8 episodes to fill. What's going to happen this year? What are the parents going to do? Like, I'm part of all of that. I have ideas for things. They get on, they don't get on. There's nothing about like, oh, Jen's just a stand-up writer. Like, not a thing, never has been a thing. I don't even write Midge's act. I've gotten some things in here and there. It's all a team effort. A lot of it's the showrunners. But my point is, though, like, as being part of that process, I think the show I write for it's always challenging to figure out like what the stand-up act is going to be about in a certain scene and why. But I do always feel like we have it a little easier because it's the 60s and she's a woman and she's like more narrative story. And so you can't go, well, why isn't she talking about that in her act? It's like, oh, well, they didn't talk about blah, blah, blah yet in that time period. Or, she did say, hey, I hate my kids or whatever. I mean, she never said that, but oh, hey, I don't think I'm a great mom. It's like, nowadays we'd go, oh, whatever. Everyone says that. Well, yeah, but she's supposed to be the first person that ever said that. Like, she's supposed to be kind of the first female comic. So we can kind of do whatever, because anything you might not like, or you might go, that doesn't seem groundbreaking. Go, no, she's the first one to do. Go, oh, all right, that is. And one thing you got to do when you write for any kind of show, whether it's a show or someone does stand up, you can't build up too much. Like, this set is going to be the funniest set they've ever done. Like, you can't announce that to the audience, because then they're watching with like an extra critical eye. So, it's hard, because stand-up is stand-up, and writing stand-up for actors and writing stand-up for narrative TV shows is just different. And so I thought, actually, weirdly, that And Just Like That did kind of a good job in that Che, the most annoying character ever, was doing their Netflix special, but they did not say, like, nobody posited the special taping as, you know, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, and oh my God, you know, it was just like, I'm taping a special, you know, I mean, it's a big deal, but it was all of Che's fans, you could tell in the crowd. It wasn't like Che was winning over all brand new people. Like, we didn't see Che on the equivalent of, you know, Jay Leno making middle America laugh, and we have to buy into, like, people who've never seen a non-binary person are gonna laugh at a non-binary person's, well, they weren't even jokes what she was doing, but so, you know, thoughts. So it was like, oh, they did a good job. Like, the people running the show, like, Che was clearly performing to, like, their people. And so you can get away with stuff when you're performing for your crowd, you know? You can get away with stuff that's, like, not necessarily funny to everyone else. So that was, like, well done by the show. It wasn't like some hyped up thing. And I know Miranda was like, oh my God, you're like a comedy god. But Miranda doesn't ever fucking go anywhere. And she's got her own shit going on. And she's half drunk. And she's also just, like, in love with Che. So that's fine. It's not like everyone was like, what a comedy god, you know. And the actor playing Che is, like, good. Like they embody, like, the physicality of this character is really good, like, in terms of the comedy swagger and, like, all that's great. Were there jokes in this special? No. And I do feel like, you know, I get it. It was the end of the special. Che had a message that was like change, and we needed to hear that so Miranda could realize she needs to make a change. You can still have some punchlines, you know, especially the bit that Che was doing about how non-binary and trans people are pictured in movies and TV shows, like they're always lonely, they don't have a friend. I mean, that's a funny premise. And I'm trying to think, I don't have a punchline right now as I sit here, but I certainly could think of one if you put me in the writer's room for a couple hours with other people, you know? And it's like, I think her punchline was, I have friends and allies and this, oh, my bra, sorry, and that, you know? And it's like, okay, like, I get it though. It's the end of the set. It's the rile people up part. Like, doesn't have to be funny. I guess we can assume the hour before that was all jokes and this was like the big ending. But there's a joke to be had in there, you know, like perfect joke. They always portray non-binary and trans people as being alone and lonely. It's like, I'm not lonely. I'm a they. There's two of me. Like, it's a joke. You know what I mean? It's like a stupid joke. Like, how could I be lonely? I'm they. It's dumb pronoun joke. Easy peas, you know, and they can make that joke because it's personal, you know. Then we're not talking about Dave Chappelle doing a stupid pronoun joke. And then you could do like, oh, I don't even, there was, the last joke was funny where Che said, suck my dick. Actually, I don't have a dick. If I did, I'd have gotten the special 5 years earlier. Totally funny. There just needed to be more punchlines. And I just felt like, come on. So I thought it was weird that Carrie was like, I have to go backstage. And Miranda's like, what about the after party? And she's like, no. That like Carrie couldn't bring her friends backstage for 2 seconds. But I mean, I guess that the scene wouldn't have played out the way it did. So, all right, so going backwards, let's start from the beginning. The podcast, I can't take it anymore. This fucking podcast is so bad. And this whole premise that Che, like, ugh. On one hand, I'm going to say something that I don't agree with, which is comedians aren't trying to be fucking funny all the time. Che could actually host a podcast about sex and have a normal fucking conversation, not all these terrible one-liners. And then I'm going to contradict myself and say, so many terrible comedians and types of comedians who I fucking hate are so annoying, and all they're doing is trying to be funny all the time. And it could be the age they are. They just haven't gotten old enough and tired enough of this shit yet. It could be their personality. I don't fucking know. But I just know that, like, my comedian friend and I, my friend Sarah Schaefer and I were texting today about, like, this super annoying article in The Atlantic about this psychiatrist or therapist who, like, specifically works with comedians. And there were, like, all these dudes in New York that work at the Comedy Cellar. And I was just like, oh, what a fucking nightmare, you know? They're all just, like, whatever. Anyway, but we were just talking about, like, how much we hate fucking male comics and whatever. Anyway, my point is so it's like, I don't think they're trying to portray Che as like, oh, Che's an annoying comedian who's always trying to be funny. That's my point, is they're just like, Che's a comedian and that's how comedians act. They're always trying to be funny. And it's like, no, if Che's this inspiration, that's what was crazy, is all these punchlines on the fucking podcast about sex. They're not good punchlines, but at least it's zippy one-liners that sounds sort of like the rhythm of a punchline. That should be in the stand-up, not the podcast. Now, you don't have to have stand-up that has zippy punchlines, but I'm just saying, like, if we see this person saying zippy fast things at all, why am I seeing it on their podcast? It's so, can you imagine listening to that frenetic podcast? Like, it's like, it's not jokey enough to go, oh, I'm just going to relax into the rhythm of a joke podcast. Sort of like the early first Ricky Gervais podcast with Carl Pilkington, where it's like, it's just nonstop shitting on Carl, making jokes. You kind of know what you're about to listen to. This is sort of like, yeah, so I mean, let's talk about dating. Well, I'll tell you this, bing-a-dong, ding-dong. And then someone's like, oh, press a button. It's like, you're getting me all untethered here. Like, what is this, a conversation or just jokes? Like, too much. Nobody in the writer's room is a comedian, I guarantee you. Or if they are, no one's listening to them when they're like, this isn't the rhythm. This isn't the rhythm. And then Michael Patrick King does this, even though he didn't write the episode. He always focuses on, like, people will have these tete-a-tetes about words. So Carrie said something to Che about, I think I got some good zingers in, and Che's like, ooh, the word zinger, like, ugh, that's so old school or tacky. It's like, it's not that crazy to say zinger. And then Carrie brings it back later, like, well, I hope you have some good zingers at your show. It's like, no one's obsessing over words like that. I don't know how to explain it. I remember her and Berger used to do that all the time. And I was like, is this what they think writers do? Like, it's so annoying. Anyway, and then I'm just like, Che, get the fuck over yourself. Every second, it's like, hey, Carrie, great job today. Shut up. You don't know it. You suck at this. You got a fucking noisemaker or whatever you're doing. Bobby Lee is actually a comedian with a podcast who says stupid shit. He can't even act. He's supposed to be playing himself, basically. Can't even do that. Then we get the podcast produced. Then Carrie goes, you know what I'm triggered by? Like, these triggered jokes. City Bike. And it's like, huh? Like, do they think all the New Yorkers are home? Like, City Bike. I get it. I see them. It is, I mean, I do get it. There's city bikes everywhere. I think it looks tacky. But also, like, I don't know what her issue with it is, so expound on it. Like, let me know. And, like, Che doesn't even go, why don't you like City Bike? Like, have a conversation about it. But it's a podcast, not a New York radio show. You know what I mean? So no one else in America knows the fuck you're talking about. So explain it. And then the producer's just like, I agree, Carrie. What is a producer? Usually the producer doesn't jump in like that. And to say two words that aren't even creative or funny, I agree. Who let him in? I mean, it's obvious, like they're going to start dating, whatever. This podcast is ruining my fucking life. Not this podcast, not No Fun. The fucking sex and masturbation or the fuck podcast. I hate it. I've never hated anything more. It gives me life to hate it. I think it might be doing like wonders for my skin or something. You know what I mean? It's just getting all the blood boiling in my face, and I can feel it circulating down to my feet. I mean, I think this is actually good for me. It's causing like a low acute stress. You know, it's just, man, I hate it. I hate it so much, and I'm so glad it's not real, you know? That's, I think, the relief in it. It's not the same as sitting around hating Donald Trump, wondering when the long haul is going to get him or when the New York AG is going to get him. But this is like, I hate this fucking podcast. And they go, it's not real. And I go, oh, what a relief. You know, it's like waking up from a bad dream. And I sort of like can't get enough. Like, hope there's more podcast scenes to hate next week, because I fucking hate this podcast. Again, I'm going to say it again. Carrie should have her own fucking podcast. Why is she with comedians? She's not a fucking comedian. And if she's supposed to be the non-comedian, then they have to let her be that and stop trying to get her to make fucking jokes. I mean, again, I know they needed to have this Che character, but they could just make her Carrie's podcast producer at her house, you know? And she's not on the mic, but she's a comedian in real life or something. I don't fucking know. But, you know, take one day, go on a writer's retreat and figure out who this Che person can be and how they came into everyone's life. And get Carrie at home with her own podcast. I'm telling you, I am a writer who lives in New York City with a podcast. I would not, and she's a very accomplished writer, unlike me. She got #1 best-selling books all over the fucking place. Everyone knew who she was. She had her column. I think her fans would be like, I'm a 50-year-old woman. I grew up with you. I read your books about marriage. I don't want to hear you on this podcast with these young people who are like ding-a-ding-a-dong, you know? For me, when I wanted to talk about anxiety, I didn't pitch a comedy podcast about anxiety. I pitched a real podcast and said, let me interview people. So with Carrie, it's like, she wants to talk about sex. Let her pitch a real podcast. I'm a comedian and I didn't pitch a comedy podcast. Why is she doing a comedy podcast? Are we supposed to think she's funny? That's always been my question. And I think, unfortunately, the answer is yes. I didn't figure this out until like the 90th time that I watched like the entire series all the way through again. And I was like, is she supposed to be funny? I think Michael Patrick King thinks Carrie's funny. Because, you know, Alexander Petrovsky's always like comic, like he's always like, you're funny. And I'm like, is she? I don't think so. Anyway, but if Carrie had her own show at home and interviewed people, do you know how many relationship experts you can interview and people who've written different books about love? Or she could interview famous people like, you know, a fucking fashion designer, get Michael Kors on there and have him talk about how he met his love. And you could actually have these people make little guest star roles, you know, or have her get a studio. Maybe it's not in her apartment and there's like the podcast producer. How great would that be? She's actually talking about love in an honest way. Or she writes her column, but it's not printed anywhere anymore, and she reads it out loud as a podcast and then interviews people, you know, like it's like a Mark Maron kind of thing where she reads her column and we would hear that as the voiceover. I don't know why they got rid of the voiceover. I liked the voiceover. I really am like, there is no need. Like they were trying to do, I swear to God, it's got to be Michael Patrick King was like, this is what podcasts are, jokey, jokey, hokey, hokey, and nobody could stop him. Like it's got to be that, because this makes zero sense on the planet Earth. I need to teach a college course in this. I can't take it. It's right there in front of you. And the podcast is not even a huge part of the show. So what I'm pitching doesn't take you off story at all. In fact, it builds story. Anyway, as predicted, I knew Miranda was going to start listening to the podcast and she was going to be like, Che's funny. I mean, it wasn't like a great, yet anyone could predict that. I did predict she'd go back to her old apartment. I think she's going to move in there. What are they doing to Steve? He doesn't know what chia seeds are? What are these? Chia seeds. They're filled with antioxidants. First of all, that's not what they're known for. Chia seeds are known to make you poop. Chia seeds also make you feel full. So if you're like dieting or whatever, you put some chia seeds in your whatever and you fucking feel full, and there's so much fiber. And it's so funny. It's like Steve has lived in Brooklyn for, I don't know, 20 years. He's got like kind of a fancy wife. He's got a teenager. He's heard of chia seeds. Fucking Chewy Bravo, who, you know, was on Chelsea lately. When was this? 2009, I think, like 12 years ago. You know, English is not his first language. America's not his first home. And he was all into, well, I don't know where our chia seeds from. Maybe they are from Mexico. But he was into chia seeds before anyone. He was talking about them all the fucking time. You gotta have chia seeds. Does it make you poop? You know? And I'm like, all right, Chewy, I know. I like chia seeds too. But he's just always pushing them on everybody. Just in a general way. He didn't even have any with him. It was just like, comes Chewy to my desk to talk about chia seeds again. I'm like, I got it. All right, fine. And Steve doesn't know what chia seeds are. Like, what are these? Like, why is that even an interesting conversation? Like, I know that the thing is they eat ice cream together, but don't talk about the ice cream. I know it's to show they don't even have a connection, but I think they should just have a connection. And she reveals they haven't had sex in years, but at least they could be best friends. Like, you don't literally just talk about the ice cream. We see you eating the ice cream, so you're showing. You don't have to also tell. That is bad writing. You know, I'm not saying the people who wrote the episode are bad writers. Somebody was instructing them. They're going to talk about the ice cream, and they're like, all right. You know, but it's just like, Steve asks a question like, you think it's a good idea the kids having sex in the house? And Miranda answers with like a quip. It's like, that's a real conversation. And no, he shouldn't be having sex in the fucking house. Yeah, one of these cheese, they're rich in antioxidants. Everything annoys me. Then the next time, you want those chia seeds again? Nah, that was stuck in my teeth. They're not stuck in your teeth any more than any other food is. Oh my God, it makes me wildly angry. I can't believe that actor, I love Steve. I think he's so handsome and he actually is a great actor. I don't know what he's doing. And just like in terms of, I don't know why he's playing Steve this way, who's telling him whatever, how to do it this way. But can't they just write a little scene where Steve says to Miranda, you know, maybe he just looks at her and he's like, hey, what'd you do today? Or like, I don't even know, how's his bar going? What's anything, you know, anything. They mentioned that the bar catered the Big's funeral, but I don't know. There's just something, I want to see something between them so that I can, you don't have to go so overboard. You don't have to build such a case that they've grown apart. They've been together for decades and they're not having sex. That's all you need. You don't need like, and then we don't talk about anything and also this. It's like, make it so that they're like best fucking friends. So that when Miranda marries a woman, Steve can be the fucking best man at the wedding. You know, like, I can't. All right, so I hate Brady. I hate him and his stupid girlfriend. I hope they get COVID or something. Like, just go away. Just go, run away. Go cross country and kill each other or something. I don't even know. Just have like a shootout. Thelma and Louise drive off a cliff. Can't stand them. Charlotte's daughter, who doesn't feel like she's a girl. I kind of liked Anthony's advice. I like that was the angle, like that kind of Gen X gay that's just like, I don't fucking know. You know, like, just leave it alone. And I liked that because I'm like, I really can't have another conversation about non-binary, this, that. And by the way, no one's more into that shit than me. I wish everyone on earth was like that. I'm just saying the way they're doing it is making my head hurt. So I'm glad that it's this approach of your daughter says, I don't feel like a girl. And you go, okay. And you just see where it goes and you don't make her wear a dress. Like, great. Moving on. Because I'm actually not that interested in what a fucking 10-year-old or whatever. Also, but then she goes, what's a hand job? if you know enough to talk to your mom about how you don't really feel like a girl sometimes, you live in New York City in the age of the internet, you know what a hand job is. How old is she supposed to be? 10? How old is she supposed to be? Let's just say she's 10, youngest 10. She knows what a hand job is. She knew at 5. What? What? What's a hand job? Don't give me that shit. She knows what a fucking hand job is. Oh, God. Like, I don't need any more of those parenting moments. Oh, my kid asked me something that I don't know how to answer. Boring. Boring, boring, boring. Okay, so somebody asked me, they're like, I'd love to see your point of view of what Samantha's doing while all this is going on. I'm like, my point of view is that she's like, thank God I don't have to hang out with these boring losers, and she's in New Zealand doing her thing. I mean, like, swear to God, she has no opinion of them. Okay, so here's what I did. The Stanford thing, like, I don't understand the sudden conflict with him and Charlotte, where he's like, you don't think I'm in the inner circle. It's like, you're not. You're Carrie's good friend, but you're not one of the girls. But it's like Charlotte's was so close with him because Anthony's her best friend. And I don't know. It's just, they're trying to create something that isn't there. Fine. Miranda's drinking the little Tito's bottles in her backpack. Fun, cool, I get it. Great. Don't totally care about that. She's getting like 2 giant plot lines. Like, can she just come out? Does she have to be drinking too? Carrie can't stop walking. The heels things is annoying. Like, I don't care. You cannot walk in shoes like that. I don't even want to get started. I'm just not that kind of shoe person. It's so funny because everyone at work is like, you're really into shoes, aren't you? And I'm like, not really. And they're like, you've worn a different pair every day this week. I'm like, have I? I mean, I have. Yeah, I brought like, I brought 15 pairs with me to New York. To me, that's not a lot. But it was like, they're not all brand new. I've had some of them 10 years, some of them longer. Some of them I've had a couple years, like 2 or 3 pairs are new. But like, I used to tour all the time and do TV appearances, and I always had like different outfits on, but they're not like stiletto high heel Manolo Blahnik. Like, they're like Sam Edelman, like $150 shoes from, I got on Zappos, that like nothing fancy, and then I can like walk in them. And yeah, I am like, oh, okay. I don't know. I don't crave shoes. I don't think about them. I'm very specific about what kind of shoes I want. They're always like clunky, easy to walk around in. I'm all about comfort. I've got bunions. I never think about shoes or want to be identified with them. I guess I do have a lot of pairs, but I think it's different than being like, I love shoes. It's like, I never got that whole like girly part of being a girl. Like, anyway, so there's a raging debate that's going on in the office, is where I'm like, I guess I have a lot of shoes, but I'm not into it per se. And people are like, you are into it if you have a lot. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm into it. And they're like, could you just wear the same pair every day? And I'm like, no, I probably couldn't. But I can't keep my hair the same style. I change everything. I don't know. I don't think it's a shoe thing is my point. Oh, this is boring. Anyway, so they did say Carrie's age, which I liked. Miranda's like, oh, look at a 55-year-old. And she's like, so that's good. She's not pretending she's not. We talked about Steve. Carrie and Big. Now, I know the news about Chris Noth or whatever came out, and it's disturbing, and I totally believe it. And I've heard nothing. I've never heard like Me Too things about him, but I've just heard like cocaine things about him and alcoholism things about him. So it all kind of makes sense. But I do want to talk about, I think they're doing a great job with making Big a character even after his death. I loved that he gave Natasha, his ex, $1 million in the will, and that Carrie, I really felt it. I really understood it. I thought it was really interesting that they had this on again, off again toxic relationship for so many years. He was this emotionally unavailable guy that, and she said to Miranda, and she's never said this, he made me feel like I wasn't enough. And I thought that was great. We've never heard this character say that about her journey with him. And you know, back in the day during their toxic shit is when she felt like she wasn't enough. And that's, you know, a very human thing. Like people feel that way all the time. And then, but then she's like, but then when we got together and it was good and, you know, he got his shit together and they've been together the whole time. She's like, I never thought I'd be thrown back into those like anxious feelings again. And that he left one of his other ex-wives money. Did I really know him? What's going on? Were they in touch? Did they have an affair behind my back? You know, because Carrie had slept with Big when he was married to Natasha. That was their like big whirlwind affair when they realized like they really are in love and they can't be without each other, even though Carrie and Big didn't get together after their affair necessarily. It was years and years later. But I really thought that like that is such an interesting plot point that this person who's no longer on the earth can cause you this anxiety, like those abandonment feelings. I loved that. And then it turns out that, you know, she ran into Natasha, talked to her. Natasha has no idea why he left her the money. They weren't in touch. They decided, I guess, it's just because it was his way of saying sorry for hurting her years ago, and he's a finance guy, and that's how he communicates. So, but it was cool because Carrie went through this whole journey of, I had a happy, sad ending with him. We were never happier, and he died. And then to find out, like, maybe there was something going on I didn't know about. Oh, no, there wasn't. I don't know. It was a cool journey. I liked it. So, yeah, so she's not able to sleep. She's walking everywhere, just, like, walking to clear her head. So, obviously, she's going to have some kind of nervous breakdown because, obviously, you can't go without sleep for that long. So I'm here for that. Did I tell you the gossip I had about it? That my hairdresser said she saw a scene being filmed and Carrie's gonna smash up a lamp store because she thinks Big is talking to her through her lamp and she wants to return it. I don't know if that's true. Sounds about right to me. So, I thought that was all good. Was another big thing. I thought it was interesting that she started going through his stuff. I don't know, it's just kind of that was it. I was like, oh, I like going through people's things. That's fun. And then you know, and I had a friend that was like, I can't believe she didn't know her landline number. I'm like, I don't fucking know my landline number. I have a landline now, like no clue. It's 818 something. I just have it in case my cell phone breaks. But I think I even just got rid of it before I moved. I was like, I don't even use this. I never knew the number, couldn't tell you. No clue. Then I feel like when she was trying to like figure out his password, I'm like, we've seen this scene before when you couldn't figure out the password to the locked away emails from Big that your old assistant had put on there. So I was just like, we've seen this scene before, which is fine. It's not a big deal. It's 2 seconds of my life. Che's Netflix special, again, I think it looked like it was taped at Bowery Ballroom where I taped Just Keep Living, but I don't think it is because I looked at an old picture of my special and the columns on the side look different. But if it was at Bowery Ballroom, they got the idea from me, or at least that's just a good place to film things on location. I think that's all I had to say. I mean, I like that she went home to her old place at the end. I like her as a widow. I don't care about her dating. Again, I am dreading the dating app episode where it's just like, swipe what? Oh my God, I swiped left. Will I ever get him back? You know, like that whole thing. Like, but, I think it's cool. Sorry, I'm boring myself. I think it's cool to make what a widow is going through is like, it's still like she's in that relationship. Like the relationship still lives on in a way as she learns things and has questions and doesn't get answers to stuff. You know, that's really painful and hard stuff. So I think that's all kind of cool. So good on them for that. And yeah, I'm just living right now. It's like I'm living to hate that fucking podcast. And if anyone can remember the name of it, please put it in the comments. I can't be bothered to go look up the name of it. But okay, so what would Samantha do? Oh, please, honey. Back in our day, it used to be gay, and now it's all about they. That would be like one of her lines. A Netflix special, that is all the rage. You know, she would be all up on that. You know, I'm one of the only ones that gets to see the secret algorithm. I don't even know what else she would say. Oh, honey, who cares if your daughter doesn't feel like a girl? As long as whoever feels her, as long as she's getting felt. And then what would she say about, so he gave Natasha $1 million. He gave you his dick. I don't think she would say that. I don't know what she would say. Again, I don't think she'd say anything to any of these people because she'd be like, I'm out of here, you squares. I'm in New Zealand living my best life, which is where I've put her, even though I know she's in London. I guess that's it. So that's my recap for this week. Thanks for being here. And until next bonus, have fun.